How has experiential and self-directed learning shaped your ambition and development?
They've shaped my ambition and who I am today in very different ways. My father always had a saying that experience is the hardest teacher because the test comes first and then the lesson. So oftentimes you're forced into a situation where you have to act, and whether or not you succeed, you don't know until after it's completely done, and then you can pick it apart and dissect it and see why it worked or it didn't work. It's more of a spontaneous teacher experiences, because a lot of times you don't know that you're going to be learning something until well after the fact. You're just in a situation that oftentimes is very difficult or stressful or harrowing, and then in retrospect you're able to look back on that and say, I learned a big lesson. Hurricane Katrina, of course, was a very huge experiential lesson for me, personally and professionally, because my family lost almost everything in that horrible storm. And there's still some healing that needs to be done, but now that I've made my peace with it, I can look back and see how I've grown and developed and matured, really, as a person. Self-directed learning, on the other hand, that's very difficult and challenging in a separate way, because you're not in a situation that's thrust upon you. You have to thrust it upon yourself. And especially as an artistic person, as a writer, and someone who likes to play music, wanting to thrust yourself into those sorts of situations is not always something that you want to do. Because there's always the opportunity for failure and defeat and heartbreak. But at the same time, there's always the opportunity for success and happiness and winning. So it's often, especially writers have a very close personal relationship with the fine art of procrastination. And we all suffer from it, except for the very, very few who are able to sit down and accomplish something every day. And I have unbelievable respect for the people that are able to do that. I'm not one of them, at least not yet. So self-directed learning, you literally have to sit down and force yourself to get something accomplished, whether or not you succeed or fail. And hopefully, out of your myriad failures, and growing up, you do learn that you're going to fail a bunch before you succeed. And learning how to fail properly is actually a sign of maturity and intelligence, I think. But also the willingness to get past it and to keep going, in spite of the fact that you're just going to keep failing throughout the rest of your life. And hopefully, through those failures, you'll also have some wins. Nobody ever bats 1,000.